Hello, this is Joe Blizzard for Sightings-of-the-Unknown. Today I'd like to tell you about the first encounter with a ghost that I ever had. And until this happened, I didn't really even believe that there were such a thing. But I bought this place in Virginia, and it had a shop. And I wanted to put a wood stove in the shop. And I found this old coal and wood stove. They're taller than they are wide. And I put that in the shop and put the flue in and everything. And so I got done that day, and I was pretty tired and left. And so the next day I decided to just walk down and kind of admire my work. And I went down there and opened the door. And as soon as I stepped in, I saw somebody in my shop. And I just, froze. And over at the stove, there is a window that shines that is open right there. And I seen what looked like it looked like a full-grown man, and a lean, sort of slender man with one of the old-timey hat on. Not really old-timey, but maybe 1950s type hat. And he was bent over with a hand on his knee, and he was looking the stove over, checking it out. And he had a hand down on his knee. And then I realized I could see through him, that he was a gray silhouette, and I could see through him. And he's looking at the stove. I mean, apparently, he sees the stove, and he doesn't see me. And I'm just standing there with my mouth open, I'm sure. And while I'm watching, suddenly it's like he realizes I'm there, and he whips his head around and looks at me and runs right through the wall. And when he went through that wall, I'm standing right there at the doorway, and I stick my head out and look. I don't know whether to shut the door or to run out myself. But I looked out there, and I didn't see anything outside. And I think that, that this was the owner, the previous owner of the place. He had died on the property, and after this, we had encountered him quite a few times, but we never seen him again. This is the only time that I saw him. And he haunted the place at least for 4 years while we were there. And he would bother my child, my baby, I believe, a time or two. Because my son, he slept real good through the night. We never did have any problems with him. And I'd be in there reading late at night, and all of a sudden he'd just start crying like something had bit him. And you jump right up when you hear your child cry. And I took off into his room, and he had a nightlight. And this one time, I saw a shadow on the wall from the nightlight. Something had went between the nightlight and the wall. And I figured it was my wife, that she had jumped out of bed and had beat me in there. And so I'm asking her, what's wrong with the baby? And as I go around the corner, she's not in the room. She's still in bed. She hadn't got up yet. And I saw that shadow, though. And later on, as he got bigger, he saw something actually move his nightlight. And and he thought that, it's some ghost or entity had done that. But if we were he had died in the kitchen, and if we were in the kitchen standing where they had found him, a couple of times you could feel something push you on your back, not hard, but lightly, and like it was trying to push you off that spot. And you turn around thinking that your spouse is standing behind you, and they're sitting over in the living room, and it was pretty spooky feeling. And we had countless things virtually every day fall off of counters and stuff that we knew was in the middle of a table and would end up, on the floor. He was always doing that kind of thing. And one time in particular, I had some company over, and a guy and a girl, married, and their child. And me and him decided we'd walk down the dirt road a little bit. There was a old cabin built like in the 1830s just down the way. It was actually my family's old home place. And we were going to walk down that way. And we got about halfway there, and all of a sudden we heard the voices of his wife and my wife screaming like somebody was killing them. And then we also heard a real heavy man's voice. And I had a hurt foot at the time. I'd tore a tendon in the bottom of my foot. But this alarmed me so much, we were sure that something horrible was happening. And we took off running, me and this other guy. We took off running, and he kind of waited up for me just a little bit, and I told him just to go. I'd be right behind him as fast as I could. And I was still running on this hurt foot because we thought it was that serious. And we get up to the house and come bursting through the door. And since we had left, I guess the conversation lulled, and they were all three asleep. My wife, his wife, and their little girl all were asleep in the living room, and the TV was down pretty low, and it wasn't them, and it wasn't the TV, and it wasn't anybody else around. We lived out in the country, and I believe that this entity imitated their voices and done this, for meanness. And we didn't ever see that couple up there again. They kind of like quit coming around at all. Like it scared them off for good. And we've been friends for several years, but that was too creepy for them. And so finally, well, there was another time also that, when I would wake up in the mornings, I could hear all kinds of stuff going on in the living room. There would be just, it sounded like there was 10 or 12 people in there making noises. Nothing distinct exactly, but just clamoring going on. And you get up and go to the bathroom. Once I actually got up, it quit immediately. And sometimes I'd lay back down and just lay there quiet, just like I had when I woke up and did hear something, to see if maybe, you still kind of want to tend to think it's your imagination and not ghost. But I'd lay there, after I had got up, and I didn't hear a thing. It was just as quiet as it could be. But on many mornings I'd wake up and you could hear all kinds of stuff going on. And one time we were outside, me and my wife, and we were looking at a window, and nobody else was in the house or had been in there in several hours. And it sounded like there was somebody walking a horse up and down through the house, and not just him. It was just all kinds of noise going on in there. And we're just looking at each other, and yeah, believe it or not, we slept in there, and we stayed in this place for 19 years, but it only stayed haunted about 4 years. Is the final thing that kind of happened was I was waiting for my wife to come to bed. I was in bed, and she was brushing her teeth. And I was turned away looking out the window, and I felt the bed go down. And I rolled over to speak to her, and she wasn't sitting on the bed. And I didn't see him, but this ghost sat down on that bed, and it went down, with the weight of a man. Because when it went down, I thought, that's heavier than usually. I was about to say, I think you're gaining weight, because it really went down, and I got mad. I knew it was him, and I jumped up, and I knew what he liked, that he was possessive of this place. And I told him, I said, I will pull up every tree, cut down every tree you've ever planted. Anything that I think you built here, I'll tear it down. I said, I'll paint the place orange or burn the buildings to the ground. I said, but you will not do this anymore. I said, I don't want to see you. I don't want to hear from you. Nothing. And I said, and if you can't leave, then there were several buildings on the property. And I said, if you see me coming or my family, I said, you move to the next building. And if we come down there, you move again. And I said, if you try me one time, I'll show you that I'll keep my word. And he didn't. That was the end of it. We did not hear from him, except one time, probably 4 years after that, and there was an old chicken house that he had built, and the door didn't fit right. You had to slam it 3 or 4 times to get the door to jump up in the door frame. And I'd been working on a backhoe welding that day, and I heard that door slam 3 or 4 times. And it was raining that day. I'd set up a tent over this backhoe so I could still work, and I thought, well, what did she go down there in the rain for, to look at those chickens? And so when it got lunchtime and I got up there, the first thing she said was, well, how are the chickens? And I said, why do you ask that? And she said, well, I heard the door slam down there. And I said, I figured you looked at them. And I said, well, I thought you had. I said, I didn't go down there. I was busy. And so I walked and looked, and I took a welding wire and stuck through the door hinge, and it twisted it. And it had not changed. That was the same as it was the last time I left. And I figure that he was letting me know that either he was passing through, or well, that's kind of what I thought, that he was passing through and he wanted to let me know still alive, But that was it. After that, for the next, I guess, 11 years, we didn't have a single incident happen after that. But and of course, I absolutely know there's ghosts. After going through years of it, I mean, I couldn't tell you how many times something was knocked off of shelves or fell, and especially, if you're laying in bed and you hear 2 or 3 things fall off, you know that something's doing it. And that's about all I got to tell about his ghost story, and I will encourage you to like and share our channel, and subscribe so you don't miss any of the future stories. And we're going to start looking for people to give us some of their stories, true stories. and try and interview you, and or either you can email us, and we'll try and put your story on the air. Thank you again for watching Sightings of the Unknown.